Indigenous Suicide Crisis in Canada, presented to you by Group 1. To start, according to McDougall's 2019 report, released at the website of Canada's National Observer, people of the First Nation, also called as Indigenous or Aboriginal people, die by suicide at a rate 3 times higher compared to the non-Indigenous people. Moreover, this number has a high probability of underestimation since most of the suicides remain unreported. Death means a great loss to family, friends, community, and society for these people. One major factor identified by a lead researcher in Statistics Canada, Kumar, as cited in McDougall 2019, is colonization, but does not imply that personal, community, or cultural failings were not part of the reasons they commit the act.
According to American Psychological Association, suicide is the act of killing oneself, most often as a result of depression or other mental illness. Some people die by suicide because they become desensitized to pain and habituated toward violence. Some people die by suicide because they typically have no sense of belonging to a valued group or relationship, and they feel that they have to become a burden to be loved or to love. Presently, as mentioned in McDougall's report, the suicide rate in Canada has been constantly increasing, which should become a concern for the Canadian government as well as the members of the health sector. These rates are shown to be higher in First Nation people, Métis, and the Inuit people compared to non-Indigenous people. However, these vary amongst community, Indigenous group, age group, and gender.
Basing from the report in Statistics Canada, as cited in McDougall 2019, suicide rates were highest among First Nations and Inuit young adults, but it is indefinite for the Métis as not enough data were gathered to include any finding. Although there were some limitations on Kumar's research, factors involving socioeconomic and geography were found to be related to the crisis. When the natives are able to adjust to their household income, labor force status, level of education, and marital status, the suicidal rates among them are found to decrease, where 78% of suicide rate disappears for the First Nations, more than third for the Métis, and almost half for Inuit. Furthermore, this difference also includes adapting to the area where they live, such as on or off reserve for First Nations, and whether large or small sized communities for Métis and Inuit.
In addition to the geographical factors, it was primarily identified that colonization made a great impact to the natives' health. A few researches have been conducted by Egertson in 2015 and by Wilk, Maltby, and Cook in 2017, which emphasize the lasting effects generated by residential schools and 60s school phenomena that was introduced decades ago to the lifestyle of the natives involved. The high rate of this type of death is believed to be the result of the historical and intergenerational trauma brought about by colonization and ongoing marginalization.
In detail, according to a booklet written by the Union of Ontario Indians, last 2013, residential schools were created to understand Indians and make them more involved in the community. However, this establishment forced migration changes that produced unpleasant and traumatic experiences for the native. These were, but not limited to, forbidding the use of Aboriginal language and requiring them to speak French or English, and forbidding their native practices and adopt the school's ways and religious denomination. Furthermore, the children were also subjected to insufficient and spoiled food, sexual assaults and forced abortions, exposure to electric shock,
freezing temperatures and contagious diseases, forced labor, and withholding medical assistance and communication to family. On instances that rules were not followed, the students were disciplined in such barbaric manners that if were practiced in today's generation, would surely make an unimaginable uproar. Although some were subjected to just being locked in a closet, others were prisoned in cages or basements, beaten unconscious with either fist or belt straps, incarcerated, stripped naked in public, shamed, searched, or sexually abused. There were more than 30 residential schools here in Canada, and the last of it was shut down in 1996. And despite of the Indian Residential Schools Settlement Agreement in place, the damage done to the students was so deep that even new generations of Aboriginals who had parents or grandparents that went to residential schools are more likely to experience depression, suicidal ideation, and attempt suicide than Aboriginal peers whose parents and grandparents didn't attend those schools.
Another phenomenon is the 60s spook. This happened during the 18th century, which was considered as a part of Canada's dark history. The children were removed with no consultation from their family and placed in non-Aboriginal adoptive and foster homes. They were fundamentally denied a sense of well-being as they lost contact with their families, culture, traditional language, and lost any sense of identity. This traumatic loss deeply impacted the children's ability to lead a healthy and fulfilling life. The traumatic loss of Aboriginal identity during this resulted in countless cases of suicide, unemployment, substance abuse, and mental disorders.
To address the suicide catastrophes, the Government of Canada has funded the recovery of the Indigenous society and has actively joined hands with Aboriginal community leaders. Moreover, different provinces of Canada have implemented different suicide prevention strategies and invested in the establishment of Indian Residential Schools Resolution Health Support Program. This program is designed to provide emotional support and mental health services to former Indian residential school students and their families. Health services include professional counseling, transportation, cultural and emotional support. In professional counseling, psychologists and social workers who had experience working with Aboriginal people will listen, communicate, and assist former students to find ways of healing from their past experiences. In addition, an Indian residential school crisis line was launched to provide a 24-hour, toll-free emotional and crisis referral services in both French and English.
So, why is this topic important to nursing?
Nurses play a vital role in suicide prevention and in strengthening Aboriginal communities. They are the frontline and constant healthcare providers rendering health services to these communities. Most Indigenous communities are served by nursing stations. According to Canadian Nurses Association 2014, nurses are viewed as advocates for health and social determinants, able to provide culturally sensitive care and utilize a holistic model of healthcare. Moreover, strong partnership with the communities, education program for nurses, and advocacy are some of the approaches nurse leaders can implement in addressing suicide prevention among Indigenous communities.
In addition, according to Bolster, Holiday, O'Neill, and Shaw, although nurses are in the front lines of suicide prevention, these registered nurses have a little or no ideas about suicide, which makes healthcare providers feel incompetent in talking and providing care to clients experiencing this dilemma. Moreover, in order to prevent suicide ideation from completing, nurses should have the knowledge and skills in assessing an individual so that appropriate interventions can be provided. The role of the nurse leader is to help her team in providing training and seminars regarding suicide. This will help her nurses identify at-risk patients by utilizing proper assessment, evaluating if the person is at risk of suicide, and provide appropriate interventions and/or immediate referral to specialized doctors. The more nurses that can recognize and identify suicidal ideation, the more lives that can be saved.
The scenario in this presentation is based on 2009 RNAO's Best Practice Guideline, Assessment and Care of Adults at Risk for Suicidal Ideation and Behavior.
I am Rosalie, and I'm gonna be your nurse for today. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions, if that is alright with you.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so let's start with your name and where you are from.
I am Melody and I am from a First Nation community.
Okay, so Melody, how are you feeling?
I am not really fine and I think something is wrong with me.
So can you tell me more about what is bothering you?
I don't know who else to talk about this, but I have these thoughts.
What kind of thoughts?
Like hurting myself or possibly killing myself.
Oh, okay. So when did you first notice such thoughts?
I don't know, but I think it's 3 months ago, I guess.
Okay, so how often have those thoughts occurred?
I think of this every day.
Every day. Do you have plan on how you will do that in committing suicide?
Yeah, I have a plan and I have thought of this a lot.
Is there anything you want to open up? That is what I am here for.
Okay, so I am a divorcee and my husband got the custody for our two daughters, and currently I am living with my grandparent who is bedridden, and I don't know where to start, where to go, and I am very hopeless. I think it is a lot easier for me to end my life and I can't deal with the pain anymore.
I see. So I will sit with you in a minute and be here for you. If you want to talk about it, I am here.
Okay, I don't know where else to go, and I know I need help. I can't talk to my family about this. My grandfather committed suicide and also my brother, and so this is a delicate topic for me. And
Well, I am glad that you came here, and we are here to help you. Okay?
According to RNAO, in this scenario, the nurse understands that her own assumptions, beliefs, and values impact how she will respond to Melody. She recognizes that many First Nations have been negatively affected by a long history of colonization and neo-colonial practices. The nurse begins her assessment with Melody by asking what brings her to the clinic and attempts to understand what she might do to make him comfortable. She is non-judgmental. She does a complete history and includes questions about her family and community, including a question about where she is from and what she understands
as the issue that brings her to the clinic. She demonstrates an interest in Melody as an individual and as a member of her family and community. Also, it is important to take every statement seriously.